Welcome back, students, to week 2 of our beautiful landscape painting or drawing. This week we will be adding large subjects. I'll be choosing flowers for our foreground. Now remember how items in our foreground are larger because they're closer to us. So we want to portray and show a larger subject in our foreground so that we can really tell the difference between the foreground, middle ground, and background. Now you can see I'll be using colorful construction paper, but white paper works great too. Scissors, glue, and anything to color with that you have available. If you prefer to create something that isn't a flower, that's okay too. Just go ahead and make sure it's about the size of your palm, which is the inside of your hand, because we want them to be larger. So don't make them too small, is all I'm saying. But you can choose different subjects if you want. Of course, you can choose animals, that would be awesome, or different types of flowers or plants. Just if they're in the front, they do need to be larger because they're closer. Okay, now I have chosen to do flowers to go with the spring time, and it matches with the landscape. So I'm gonna start by doing a circle. I'm using a pencil in case I make a mistake I can erase. Now, around that circle are curved lines that connect. Looks like I have been able to fit 5 different curves around the flower to create petals. Now you can create your own flower design, of course, if you would like. Just make sure it's a good size, about the size of the palm of your hand. Now I'll be doing the same design of this type of flower. One other thing I should say, if you are designing your own kind of flower, be careful about how much detail you put into the petals. So, for example, if they're very skinny or thin, long petals, that will be harder to cut out. So keep that in mind. Whatever you draw, you are cutting out. So if it's very complicated, it could be a little bit harder, and you might want not to do that. You might want to go ahead and do more of a simple design. So I'm going to be drawing flowers on different colors. So I've done a green one and an orange flower. Now I'm not putting a lot of time into these designs because I'm going to spend most of my time putting smaller details inside the flowers once they're cut out. Okay, I'll do a yellow flower. Now here's some fun advice on cutting. When you are cutting out something, cut around it first to get the extra paper off. And then it's a bit easier to cut inside the smaller angles around the petals. So I'm going to cut even more of the paper off before I get to the smaller areas between those petals. Some other tips for cutting is hold your scissors in one spot and in one direction, away from you, of course. Point it away from you. And then you can actually just rotate the paper around as you cut. This will really help you learn some more cutting skills. Okay, now that the outside of my flower is cut around and all the extra paper is gone, I'm going to very slowly try to cut between my petals, and I rotate my paper a lot because I have a curved line. So I rotate my paper to go around the curve so that the scissors are able to follow the curved line. And you can snip off any spots you didn't like. Part of your drawing you might change your mind on. Maybe it's a little too big. You can always cut your petals a little smaller and change the outline of them with your cutting. So take your time now and cut out your flowers. You really only need 3 flowers or subjects, which would be something in the foreground, whatever you have chosen. So 3 things about the size of the palm of your hand, and you can cut those out at your own pace. And then we get to add some beautiful, fun details. Because when our subjects are in the foreground and they're closer to us, we get to see more detail because they're closer up. Now you'll see the video is going to go a little bit faster, but you do have the techniques for cutting out your subjects. Cut the extra paper off first, and then rotate your paper and keep your scissors in the same direction away from you. And then you can get the harder spaces between the petals just by rotating the paper slowly and following your pencil line. So I'm cutting out my flowers here. I'm gonna do different colors. You may do that as well. And I can't decide what colors to do, so I'm gonna cut an extra one and choose my favorite. I really could use 4 flowers too if I overlap them and fit them all on that hill on the left. We're also going to allow our flowers to come off the edge of the paper, which gives it a really cute look. It looks like they're really coming out towards you from the foreground. So before we glue them down and put them in the right place, we need to add our fun detail. You can use anything you have to color with. I'll be using markers because I want to cover my pencil line as best as I can. And I like to do that with a darker, sort of thicker, marker so that I can cover up those pencil lines. Now you can create any design that you want. You can see here I'm sort of outlining the shape of the petals and the overall shape of the flower. You can do something entirely different if you want. You might have also chosen a different subject, which may need a different kind of outline or detail. So have fun with this. I'll be using a lot of lines and dots to create pattern inside of my flowers. All right. Well, you may take your time and go ahead and add details at your own pace. You'll see I'm using these dots I mentioned to create a fun kind of bumpy texture on the inside of the flower. It's the pollen inside of the flower. So definitely do details. You could even be doing a spiral on the inside of the flower would be really fun. Now I'm adding these lines on the petals. Also kind of gives a fun texture. And then I'll change to a new color for details on a different flower. So I'll go ahead and switch my marker now. Now you might be using crayons or colored pencils, which would be fun too. I'm gonna use a blue. I like the blue because it's dark and it covers up the pencil line. I can also erase any extra pencil lines, as can you. If you still see some, you can always erase them after you do your details or even before you do your details. All right. So I'm outlining the shape of the petals. I really want them to stand out when I glue them down. So it's nice to have that outline. And I'm gonna keep with the same design, and I'm gonna do little dots in the middle, as may you, or you may choose your own. Maybe you wanna do zigzag lines that are in rows, or maybe you just wanna draw small circles. Anything you like for details, but do add some details to each of your flowers because you can really see them because they're really up close in your foreground. Now, once you've added detail to your 3 flowers or your other 3 subjects, go ahead and arrange them on your paper. So you've cut them out, you've drawn some wonderful detail, arrange them to see how you like. And practice overlapping. So have one flower on top of another. Or even you can overlap it on top of two flowers like I've done. And let's make sure we leave a little bit of the petal off the paper. If you like that, it makes it look like the flower is sort of coming off the page. It's so close to us. So I am going to glue it, and I added a few layers of glue with my glue stick, 2 layers. Really make sure it has a lot of glue on the back. Put the 2 flowers down that are behind the one on top of it, or overlapping them. So make sure you know what 2 flowers to glue down first, the ones behind, the one on top, and then you can glue your last flower on top of the other 2. And you have your subjects in your foreground. Do you see how they look like they're closer to you and much bigger? Because you can see all of that beautiful detail. Now you have completed your amazing art. I am so proud of you. Thanks for following along.